Hi there, welcome to my build of this 45-inch wingspan new Era 3 revisited. Now in the last video we got the wing all nicely sheeted and now I've sanded all that sheeting and it looks really nice. It's got a lovely finish to it. I'm really pleased. Now in this video I want to just finish off a couple of little jobs with the wing, and that is the wing tips, but also I need to shape the ailerons and do the aileron hinges. So I'm going to run through that today in this video, and there's a couple of other jobs I'm just doing, like sorting out the tail plane and the fin, which I'll just have a brief look at. So anyway, I'll zoom the camera in onto the bench and I'll just show you what I'm doing. Well, the wing tips couldn't be simpler. It's just a profile that's put on to the flat end of the wing. It's 1/4 inch light balsa, and I've just glued it on centrally, and to help me line it up I did a centre line front and back, and then held it square. I used this steel block I've got, which is square, pinned it, and then just CA'd it all the way along, and I've done both ends. Now I need to build up the rear end and the trailing edge and the leading edge. And on the back, nice and simple, a couple of pieces of 1/4 inch light balsa. I'm just going to glue on there, clamp them in place and leave that overnight. I've got these blocks here. These are 3/4 inch square. I'm going to glue these together like that, and then that will glue top, and then I've got two more and that will glue bottom like that. I might trim these a little bit. Once they're glued together I might trim them a little bit before I glue them onto the actual wing itself, so that there's a little bit less profiling to do. It might make it a little bit easier. Now the next job I need to do is I'll glue these blocks in a minute, and then we'll come back and I will show you what I'm going to be doing with the ailerons and how I'm going to be doing the hinges and shaping them. Well, I've got my two ailerons which I cut out a while back, and they're both out of 1/4 inch balsa. Now first thing I've done with this is I've put a centre line all the way along ready for the profiling, and I've also marked where the 3 hinges go, and I've put a centre line on that as well where the hinges go. Now the hinges, I'm going to be cutting slots for these Mylar hinges, which are essentially just plastic hinges, and they've got a slot down the middle to allow CA to wick in, and they've got a bit of a texture to them which gives them a really nice grip. I really like these hinges. They're easy to do and they work well. Now the way I'm going to cut the slots in the hinges, I'm going to do the hinge before I actually profile the aileron, because it will sit nicely on the bench. I'm not having to prop it up with it rocking after it's profiled. Now this is 1/4 inch, as I said. I've got some 1/8 plywood here. If I put 2 pieces, that is exactly the same size as the actual aileron itself. And the way I cut aileron hinges, it's a little bit perhaps unusual or not typical, but it's how I do it and it works for me. I know there are lots of tools and different ways of doing it, but this is a method I use which I really like. And what I use, I've got a number 4 scalpel, Swan Morton scalpel handle, and I use a number 26 blade, which is, as you can see, this is quite a long blade. And I put, where's my slot? I'll get the right way. I've got my slot that needs to go in there. So I put my 1/8 plywood against the balsa like that. I hold them both down. You just slide the blade in horizontally till we hit the stop, and then come out, back in again, and just work it along like that. And there we go, up to the full end. And then obviously we have to come back just to make sure this is square, being very careful with our fingers. And there we go. So if I get the hinge, and that should just slide in there. Lovely. Very easy and nice and I'll just try and line that up so you can see that's nice and central there, not twisted or anything. So I will get on now and do the rest of the hinges, and then we can come back and have a look at how I'm going to shape the actual ailerons themselves, which again is a fairly easy process. So there we go, and just done that last one on this aileron. Easy peasy. There we go. Well, I've now done all of the hinges, and the next job is to actually profile them from this this flat bit of 1/4 inch balsa to a nice shaped aileron. I've put a centre line down the trailing edge all the way down, and also on the ends as well, and also on this end, just to help, I've drawn on kind of roughly the shape that I'm looking to achieve. Now I'm going to do this by using my David plane, and here we go. Nice sharp blade, and or a new blade possibly is always a good way to go, because really want to make sure we get some nice clean cuts. I'll just turn the camera around a little bit. There we go. Now I'm simply going to, I've got two angles here. I'm going to cut or plane this angle first, and then I'll do this one. So I can hold it back here, and if you hold your plane at an angle like this, and just some nice clean sweeps with a good sharp blade. We're only going to use the plane to get it roughly where we want to be, and then we're going to finish it off with the sand. Now keep checking. So that's bringing it down quite quickly. Now that has come quite close down to the line. I don't know whether the camera can pick that up, and we're not far off the profile that we need. So we need to just do this tapering bit here. Okay, and that's done that, and then we can turn this over, and we need to do the other side. There we go. And now we have, it's almost profiled. It's still a little bit rough, and there's a little bit more to come off there actually. Let me just take one more swipe. There we go. Yep, that's better. And now simply all we need to do is take our sanding stick. These are just ones I make. It's quite a broad one, and then we just go down and just take that down to the finished profile, which actually comes down pretty quick. You can see that's taken out any of the roughness, and that will allow us to bring it down to our finished shape quite quickly. So I will get on and sand this. I'll probably take it outside actually and do that rather than breathing in the dust. Right, I've now come in from outside, having sanded these. I did still sand them on the flat surface on the edge of a bench. I didn't do them just holding them in my hand freehand. And you can see now they're looking lovely. Really nice shape, and I'm quite pleased with how they've come out. They'll still need final finishing. This has just got them down to the right shape, and as I say, they'll still need a smoother sand. I need to put a little bit of an edge on there as well, and of course I'll need to just take the corners off here so that they move properly on the actual tail fin, not tail fin, sorry, on the wing itself. But essentially that's those are finished now, and I'm going to put those aside until I do the overall finishing of the plane. Now, the only one other thing I'm going to just show you is what I've been doing on the tailplane and fin, and you'll have seen on the video earlier, hopefully, where I cut out all of the components. Well, this is the tailplane here, and you can see I've just CA'd on these anti-twist pieces here, just to prevent that from twisting. And I just CA'd that, and I'll show you how I do that. It's really simple, by just gluing this the fin here. Right, so the first thing that we need to ensure is that we've got two lovely square edges, and if we just push them together, that butts up lovely. If we turn it over, if we butt them together again, that's lovely. There's no gap, so those edges are nice and square. Now we need to make sure, using a straight edge, that these are on a straight line along the bottom there. So we push them together, and I'm going to be using some 3M magic tape, and I'm just going to rip a piece off, a couple of inches long, push these together. Now I'm sticking the magic tape on this piece first, on the smaller piece, and then pinching these together nice and tight. I'm just pulling that really tight and sticking it down. Now when I let go, because this is so tight, it'll act like a hinge and that will pop up. Now I'm going to stick another piece on, just slightly higher. This is how I join any kind of balsa, whether it's for a tail fin or it's for sheeting or whatever. See there, again, it's just popped up. Now what we're going to do is we're going to turn that over, and I could put a block on it, that'll hold it nice and flat. I might put a heavier block actually. That will hold that relatively flat, but I will press down when I glue. Now I'm going to take my CA. I've got a cloth ready here to wipe off the surplus, so we get as little on the drying on the surface as possible, forming a crust, which we don't want. So I'm just going to put a little bit of CA on that and then wipe it off. Oops. Didn't do that quite quick enough, but anyway, that's, and now I can just give that a, there we go. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn that over, and I'm going to press that flat again and just put a dab of CA on there and a dab there. I don't want to put too much on because it sticks, as it flows under the tape, it sticks the tape down, which, if we're not careful anyway, which we obviously don't want. So if we just lift up the tape, yeah, you see that's stuck down just a little bit. There we go. Now what we can do is we can just put on a little bit more CA and wipe that off, and there we have our tail fin, nice and strong. Well, we've almost got the wings finished now. We've got the tips gluing, and we've done the ailerons, we've shaped the ailerons and put in the hinge slots, which is great. Obviously we still need to profile the wing, and the ailerons will need a final profiling, or not profiling, but a final finishing anyway. But that will probably be done right at the very end, as we'll need to profile the tailplane and the fin. But we've got the anti-twist pieces put on the tips, and we've also got the tailplane glued together. But yeah, there's going to be a bit of finishing needed on these. But now the next job is to start thinking about the fuselage, and I'm really excited about that. So please join me in the next video where I'm going to start building the fuselage. So please subscribe so you don't miss that. And I'm going to need to do some head scratching, because I need to think about kind of the order of how I'm going to lay it out and putting in the cross members and things like that. So please come back and see the fuselage.